welcome back to the show. Salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Infinite Podcast. Salutations, people. You guys are amazing in the chat. Welcome back to the show. It hasn't been a week. This is the pre-record. It's been a couple of days. It's been a fantastic couple of days. But the best thing about this one is, one, Holly's back. We didn't get a chance to speak to her this week. And we've got Colt coming through the show. So this is going to be an absolutely fire show. Umbra, welcome back as well. It's great to also have you here back a couple of days later. We'll start with Colt. Colt, how's your week been? How's things going? How's life? How you feeling?
Life's good. It's been super dicey. People are cranky. And I've been enjoying games and ran into a time where now I need to carve out as much time as I can to play fun stuff. And hopefully that will all work out. But I've been good.
Yeah, there's way too much. And I've decided I wasn't going to play Dragon Age. But now I'm like, with the opinions that I had, I probably need to play it to go, hey, like, you know, vet myself to see if I'm right or wrong. Either way, I'm sure you'll hear about it on the show once I finish playing that another 100-hour experience that I'm gonna have to spend all my time in. Holly, how has your week been? How you feeling? Looking fantastic, by the way. Just mentioned your hairline. Thought it was amazing. Show the people. No, you
I was looking at my phone and my head was down, and Riskit, of course, took the moment to ridicule me for a second. But yeah, I am back. Thanks. I had a really killer headache for a couple days, so everything's better. It's been good. I finished the Lake House DLC for Alan Wake. It was so intense. It was really intense, but really good. I was really impressed with it. It took me longer than the 90 minutes. It was probably more like 2.5, 3 hours for me, because I like to read all of the stuff because it's really lore intensive. And there is a little bit of a secret that you can miss, but it's really cool to find it. It's only like a minute and a half long when you do find it, but it was neat. It kind of ties things a little bit together on the side. So that was really good. And I accomplished something that I was really happy to get. We finished me and DeMarco and our friend Jonas finished the quest for Liberty Falls zombies. So we like got through and like got the rare achievement and got all of the goods for making it to like the final round in the secret story in the Liberty Falls map. So now we're going to try to do the Terminus map, which is way bigger and way harder, but the first one was not easy either. So that was fun.
Sorry, I had to do that.
Did you though? Did you? Did you?
Now, look, that I actually want to play zombies. I'm not really a zombies guy, but based on the campaign, I'm sort of at a spot in the campaign where I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. So I kind of want to play zombies now because they've done this. I don't think it's a spoiler to say where they've done this thing where they've overarchingly tied multiplayer zombies and campaign. There's all like sort of links to each section of the game that they've done. So that's great. I mean, I don't know if they obviously will link it to Warzone too. So I think this is a really good fleshed out campaign. We talked a lot about COD last week, but I'm really loving it. But just going back to the Lake House, and I definitely wanted to say, but I didn't want to interrupt, things that are a minute and a half long can still be good. But secondly, like I found it really, interesting that you like this one, or really like this one, because you struggled a little bit with the gameplay through the actual game, and I loved it, but you didn't. So do you think that maybe this time that'll flip and I won't like the Lake House as much, or do you think
No, you'll like it. It's really good. I just don't like, I love the world, I love the story and all of the interwoven stuff. I just don't like the combat very much in Alan Wake. That's what kind of drives me nuts. And in this, it's really more, there's combat, but it's not as intensive as it is in the main game. So
okay, so it's more survival-ish, sort of slow baked sort of.
Yeah, and there's a new enemy, which I won't tell you anything about, but it's really interesting, and you kind of don't know really what to do with it at first, and you don't find out until later. But anyway, I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah, 'cause look, I heard mention of something about who's the guy from Resident Evil? Oh, I always forget his name. He's the big guy with the hat, and you can never kill him.
Mr. X.
Yeah.
Mr. X. Yeah, I think there's something like a Mr. X from what I've heard in
Yeah,
there.
kind of.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool.
It's really
I like
good.
when they pull from strengths of other games. So that's good to see. Umbra, welcome back. You would have played a lot more of Dragon Age, and you probably have a better impression of sort of how you're feeling about the game. So I'm curious to see where you're at with it and how your couple of days has been.
Yeah, I'm about 32 hours into it now, and it's I
Damn.
woke trash. Colt, why did you put me on this? No, I'm joking. It's actually pretty good, man. I will say though that okay. That
Nice
went on
filling
way too
music.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went too long.
Well, it's a sustained note. You could keep going.
Yeah, just kept going with Energizer Bunny. But I will say that the story isn't necessarily captivating to me so far. I'm not blown away by it. Code, I feel you must feel the same. But the combat is damn fun, man. Like if I had the chef's kiss, absolutely. So I'm like, that's what's really engaging is the combat so far that I've come to realize. And mind you, I put in 160 something hours into Metaphor Refantasio. So I'm coming from a game that had a strong story, really strong bonds with the characters and such that you interact with. And coming into this, now I'm not going to say that the interaction with the characters is bad per se. I just think the way they handle it is not the best. And the story kind of just feels like you're just going through the motions after a minute to me. I mean, I know the overall like overarching kind of plot and what's at stake, but I kind of feel like you're just kind of going on I don't know, like on a how do I put this? It's like you're going out
And
on
Avengers.
a run. Not even that necessarily, right? But I guess you can kind of tie it in that for the quippiness of everybody and how they speak, and it does have that kind of energy, that Avengers / Galaxy of the Guardians of the Galaxy kind of energy with the way they talk and things like that. But it just feels like you kind of just going out there to do a little mission or two and come back to the base. That's what it doesn't really feel like this. You know what I mean, Cole? You see what you know what I mean about that?
Yeah.
What's your feelings on it so far? Like, because the combat is dope. The combat is what's
combat is awesome. I went back and looked at a couple of games that have really fun combat, and I'm like, Dragon Age is so fun to play. I really understood what Dragon Age Veilguard is it's like the Volition made a Saints Row game in a fantasy game, and people are like, what? Shut up. What? No way. What? You know,
I can actually see that now that you mentioned
it really is. It seems like you've got a rambunctious crew in a fantasy RPG. It's like the Volition took their sensibility of what they do for games and they made a fantasy RPG. Like your companion group, they're more like the group you see in Saints Row. Now Saints Row is all about, we know what Saints Row is, but it's like Tiny Tina's Wonderland, which is a fantastic game. It is still a Borderlands game, but it's made in the fantasy RPG genre. So when I play it, it totally feels like a rambunctious, what do they say, irreverent crew in a Volition game, like Agents of Mayhem. It's really close to like Agents of Mayhem. And I'm getting super annoyed at the dialogue when a character says, it's gonna be okay. And I see on the subtitles, it's gonna, the word gonna. I'm like, I play so many fantasy RPGs, like you don't use the word, and I'm going to be super nitpicky, okay? And say you don't use the word gonna. When like the way that they talk, they're like, oh, it can't be that bad. Oh, it's gonna this, or did they really do that? They say things like that. Did we really just see that? This type of dialogue, and you can skirt. We're like just like jump. We're not even into the show yet, right? You can skirt all the controversy stuff because I'm not interested in the controversy anymore. It's so tiring. But if you just look at the writing is written for a 12 to 13-year-old. The characters talk like they're in middle school. And it's written for somebody who's got a really low IQ or low entry level to fantasy RPG. And the world is gorgeous. The characters, The gear looks cool. The weapons are cool. The upgrade system, the combat is phenomenal. I cannot stop playing it. And so I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, skip. I don't care. I'm tired of how you all talk. Like, here's the one that's really going to tick people off. This game is no more cheesy. Oh man, are you ready for this, Riskit? You want to get canceled? No, I'm just kidding. It is no less cheesy than a Capcom or Square Enix game, because there are certain developers or studios or genres like anime style stuff that has a certain level of what I would call cheesy. But for people who love that stuff, like that's like right in their wheelhouse. That's part of that genre. That's what makes it so fun and exciting for people. But for me, it comes off as a super, super campy and corny. And I feel like this is a Western developer acting like they're making a Capcom or a Square Enix game without all of the extra high polish. But I cannot stop playing it. And the combat's so great. I just don't like the way that people talk. They just talk
but I mean, you say that.
Go ahead.
You say that because and I've been highly critical of Metaphor, mostly just to annoy Black Viking. And if he watches this, I hope he doesn't watch this. But like, I was super critical. But the one thing I couldn't say critically about the game was it told the story in a more mature adult way, and it had some super political sort of elements, like it basically addresses racism, like, and all that sort of stuff, like really early on in the game. Like in the demo, you get to sort of see that that's happening. You know, these particular species are looked down upon, and these are the higher species or whatever. And it's really dealing with some pretty high level sort of, political stuff, but in such a way that it doesn't tell you what to think. It just does its story, and that's in it. And then you make your decision about how you're feeling about the whole thing, and it didn't have that really sort of campy dialogue, and it left something to the imagination. And I mean, there's definitely animes that sort of do that with Capcom, and definitely Square Enix, like, hey, let's go over here because we get the bad guy.
Salutations, anime fans.
Salutations. but Metaphor didn't do that, and it was one of the things that I highlighted. Is like it is good, solid writing. Sure, it takes, you've got to like walk 10 minutes to get to a story beat for 10 minutes, and then load for 5 minutes before you get to play anything. But like the story beats were really good from what I played. So yeah, I think I completely understand what you're saying, but I've actually come a little bit around to anime because I used to hate that stuff. And I watched that Blue-Eyed Samurai, and I was like, this is really good. Again, addresses a lot of really serious sort of issues and adult sort of themes, but it does it in such a way that's, again, doesn't hit you in the face with a sledgehammer and what you should think. It just tells a story, and then you decide, there's points at which you don't even like the main character. Purposefully, they do that. And they guide you there, but they don't say, you shouldn't like me right now. You know what I mean? I'm bad.
There's so many more anime that I have to put you on, by the way, that's even better than that. But the thing I was going to say is that, funny you mentioned that, Colt, with as far as the dialogue, and because that was a major, I was talking with a bunch of fellas, including content creators, over the week about it, and one of the takeaways was that it felt too modernized in a fantasy setting. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the problem you had with it, with the Ghana and all that, because
they all talk like they're in 2020
exactly
instead of 1420 or whatever that would be.
Yeah, and it's a bit off-putting. It does take you out of it a little bit the way they speak. So I definitely get that feeling. I will say, like, it didn't irk me or anything, but I definitely was not like, I'm really in this fantasy world.
I mean, I'm not mad. I'm just like, I'm this. Yeah. I'm like, stop, Balara. Stop. It's like, and it's BioWare. Like every word that Liara said, Miranda, Morden, Thane, all of them, every word they said, I'm like, yes, yes, go on. Like, cause every word was so important. And I watched a video, a professional writer is like, we're not going to talk about the problems everyone else. We're just going to talk about the writing. It's written, it's written in such a low bar of writing quality, And what I deduced from that was this is a rated M game. It's rated M for mature, 17 and above, but it sounds like they're trying to talk to someone in junior high or middle school. And the way that puzzles are so simplified, everything is over explained. One great thing about Mass Effect is they say, oh, the Hanar are this and blah, blah, blah. In the Colony Wars, you're like, what? And they do like that thing like that Star Wars did in the beginning. They establish all this stuff and you're like, what? They talk about it like on purpose. Like, this is how it is. And you need to figure it out. And when you're going to learn along the way, and everything is hand fed to you. And there's no subtlety. There's no, I just love the game so much. I cannot stop playing it. But if I was a diehard Dragon Age fan, which I've only kind of dabbled in them,
Yeah.
I'd feel like I really got robbed of my next big Dragon Age game. But people look at the combat and go, combat's trash, looks so basic. I'm like, come on now. Here, take the controller. It's super fun.
That's a saving grace. That and the visuals are just crazy good.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I'm playing as a mage, so I'm supposed to be using a staff, but your secondary weapon is a sword, so I'm only using the sword. So I'm like a biotic Mass Effect sword swinging like super. It's crazy. Yeah. And Fonz and I are playing back and forth in party chat and making fun of the dialogue and stuff. But we are loving the game. And if Fonz loves the game, then you know that anybody could like a game. He's super cranky. So anyway.
Yeah. The combat, like I say though, I'm with you on that. The combat and the world, the way it looks, the visuals, those are the saving graces. Even I'd give them credit for their character creation too, by the way.
Yeah.
Because your character really does look like they belong in that world. Art style be damned or whatever. But yeah, I definitely think the weak point would be how they tell the story in the dialogue. I think that's the weaker things. But yeah, I'm feeling like I might land at an 8 or 8.5 out of 10 at the end of it though, just because I'm enjoying the combat so much.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think it should be penalized because of its poor writing. Like I'm gonna play the game, but I just like if like you said, Colt, I think like if you've been a Dragon Age fan and I'm like you, I've dabbled, and Inquisition was really tough for me. I played a couple hours and I'm like, I'm out because the combat was bad, so bad. And then, or it annoyed me. I was like, this is not for me. And then the tone was good, the story was good, the feeling of the world was good. I'm like, I could get through this if the combat was better, but I didn't. But to then see this tone, I'm like, how did you go from there? Anyway, we've talked a lot about Dragon Age Inquisition. Holly, how are you feeling about it? Nah, kidding. She's not playing it. We'll move on to the first
I want to hear what Holly
week.
thinks about it from the outside. Like, are you playing it at all? Or what's going on?
I have no interest in that game.
Okay.
I just don't. But it's mostly, it started with, I was interested in just because Red Wolf is so hyped about it, right? For months, right? So he was talking about, I can't wait. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll play it, right? And then when they did the first reveal and it was all butter smooth Fortnite purple skinned, I went, nope, I'm good. It was just the visuals are too Fortnite-esque, and then all the other stuff came out and it was just like, you know what, it comes out at the same time as COD, and and then I'm still playing Silent Hill 2 and other things, and I just really, and I have no tie to Dragon Age at all. Like, I've never played any of them, so for me there was no like additional draw because of previous experience, so I had no interest in it.
Silent Hill 2, I still need to get to that game. That's my backlog is just swelling and it is painful.
You got to play Lake
Sorry,
House
I
first, though.
Mean to do that.
It's a little
You literally just rolled your eyes in the middle of it.
I love it. Go for it. Yeah.
Look, we got to get to the first topic. That wasn't the first topic, but it turned out to be the first topic. But now we're moving into the first topic of the night. I wanted to talk a little bit about Perfect Dark and what's going on with that game. This has had so many different rumored reports and so many different changes. We've had, the guys from, I believe it was the guys from one of the guys from Naughty Dog high up. He was with the studio. There was a whole bunch of high level developers from Insomniac and all sorts of, story developers that all filtered out. Then we had, the studio was in dire straits and the game was like, not playable, and what was Phil playing? And then we bring in Crystal Dynamics.
That was like
and then
4 years ago.
Yeah. And then we bring in Crystal Dynamics. and they're
Yeah,
like
sorry.
saving the world, Crystal Dynamics. And then it was Xbox couldn't do a game studio without bringing Crystal Dynamics. And then there was acquisitions, and everyone's like, buy Crystal. I was one of those. All this stuff has been going on with Perfect Dark in the background, and then and I feel like this didn't get the attention it deserved, in fairness, because everyone's like, all right, it's another change with Perfect Dark, whatever. We're used to this at this point. But I think after we saw the reveal, for me, that looked amazing. I really liked the reveal. I liked the feel of it. The combat looked cool. The shooting looked cool. The traversal looked cool. Sort of like a Mirror's Edge traversal. So I'm super focused on this game, hoping it comes in 2025. But from the looks of it, Brian Horton, who was the creative director at Insomniac and was working on Marvel's Wolverine, he's since moved from there to the Initiative to start working on Perfect Dark. So interesting that a creative director is now moved across to start working on. You would think that most of that work would be done on both of those games. And then I forget the name of the guys who did Ratchet and Clank. Smith and Daly have moved across from
Ratchet company.
Ratchet and Clank to work on Wolverine. So that's pretty crazy. It does give me, the only concern I have now is like, this game I felt like was coming in 2025. Now I'm like, maybe we're looking at a 2027 release for this. I think this is more of a 2027 release. I was hoping
2026.
But how long is that? How long has that been in development then, Colt? Is that
like they established
22
the
years?
studio in 2019, or started to try and establish it. They started looking for a location, and they locked it down in Santa Monica. They started development in 2019 or 2020. Drew Murray, the guy who worked on Ratchet and Clank and helped launch Sunset Overdrive, or was a lead at Sunset Overdrive, he worked on it for a while. Phil came in and played it, like you said. That was in 2020, I'm pretty sure. And then he left.
Right.
So we didn't see anything until this year. So yeah, as far as I have kind of like dug into it, it's not a 2025 game. It's not going to be at the developer direct, I wouldn't think. So it's a 2026 game. It takes Xbox forever to make games.
Didn't they have a 25 stamp on it?
I don't think so. No, I don't think they had a stamp of anything on for Perfect Dark. I think it. I always, that's like one of those graphics I didn't save, but there was like a games roadmap graphic that came out. Is that after the showcase, Ollie?
It was at the showcase that they showed Joanna Dark or Perfect
Let me
Dark.
see. Yeah, and they had a graphic there. I'm going to see if I can find it. But yeah, I think that one did not have any type of date on.
It didn't have a 2025 on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that makes
Yeah, here.
sense.
Well, that's not it. That just shows all the games. There was one. It was after showcase when they showed that graphic that had the dates of when games were supposed to have their window, and Perfect Dark didn't have one. Which, I mean, it looks done to me. Launch it. No.
It was further along than I thought it would be.
So weird. Did I just cut it out? So here's a weird thing that EVMux does, the program I use to do this show. If I play a YouTube video, it cuts, and I press pause on the YouTube video, it cuts out everyone's audio. Really, really weird.
Oh.
So if we had a weird, awkward silence there, that's my fault. I was just checking out the video to see if it said to 2025. Definitely didn't, but I just sort of thought it would be around, that time, 2025, 2026. But if you're bringing in a creative director, that still means you're building out, at the very least, you're building out side quests. You might have your solid storyline through the middle. Yeah, to me, this is not disappointing. It's good. I mean, bring anyone across from Insomniac, they make great games. And I really don't have any issue with their Spider-Man story. So for me, I guess I take this as a net positive. I don't know about putting Ratchet and Clank guys on Wolverine. I feel like that's like a sort of a more fun sort of genre, and then maybe they're talented and they can switch to Wolverine. I would take it away. But Holly,
Sorry.
Yeah. There you go. Holly,
go
you've got a bit of a look about what you're thinking.
I mean, just because somebody is worked on a specific art style or, with a certain type doesn't mean that they can't move. I mean, I would argue that the Wolfenstein games are significantly different than probably what Indiana Jones is going to be, right? In aesthetic and style. So I don't think it's quite fair to pigeonhole, that one studio can, like, if you're a platforming studio, you can only successfully do platformers of a certain style. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I
Fair.
agree.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah, and-
PlayStation. We don't need to be fair.
We don't need to be fair. And I also think that maybe the team at Insomniac that works on Ratchet and Clank, maybe they would be able to do something different than making Wolverine feel like another Spider-Man. With Wolverine clothing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what it looked like, right?
It looked like,
there's a lot of
yeah, the leaks.
It's basically a jumping Wolverine. Instead of swinging around, you like climb up the buildings and then jump from building to building, and it's
that'd
very
be fun,
and
but maybe they do need something a little different. Yeah.
right. Yeah, and I think if you were to do something like sort of definitely have some jungle sections and all that into it as well, like where because there's a lot of they could have done so much because like Wolverine's been around since the early in the early 1900s, right? So he was going through the Second World War and that whole bit. You could do like a whole war section. There's so much you could do, but it very much did look like it was just a Spider-Man running and jumping sort of thing. Umbra, I want to jump to you and sort of get your take on. You see this as a net positive, the Wolverine creative director or Spider-Man creative director moving over to the initiative, or do you see it as a bit of a negative for the game that they maybe don't have direction? I think I saw some negative.
I don't know if they don't have direction. I just feel like when I saw that happen for Fable, I was like, wait a minute, how far away is Fable? Because you remember they were like hiring people like, what the hell? When is Fable coming out then? And it's like, after all these years, you're bringing somebody in now for that? So to me, it makes me feel like Perfect Dark is not going to be releasing the time frame that they told us. Maybe that's the only thought I had that made me feel away. As far as him coming on to the team, he worked with Crystal Dynamics before, so it's just him reuniting. Reunited, and it feels so good. Yeah, it's just him reuniting with the squad, so that's cool. Yes, that music did not at all go with. But yeah, that's cool because. It's cool that he's reunited with the squad. I trust anybody who's working over it in Insomniac to do what they're going to do on a game. So whoever's taking over from Ratchet and Clank's team, I'm sure they're going to turn in a good game. I will say from what we saw from the Wolverine gameplay, I was not inspired whatsoever because it looked really cheesy with him jumping around like that and literally moving around Spider-Man-esque. I'm pretty certain, by the way, they'll have forested areas and stuff like that. I mean, I'm almost certain they're going to touch on the Weapon X situation, so I don't see why they wouldn't have some type of area like that. Also, too, I don't know how mature they're going to go. From what we saw, even from the leaks with it, it seemed kind of like, yes, it's serious, but how serious? I don't know if it's going to be blood and guts and all that. I don't think it will. It's just that's the kind of danger you play with that type of character. You're gonna have to either go all in or not. So I don't know how that's going to land, but I'm sure Insomniac is going to do something good. As far as the Horton jumping into for Xbox, yeah, I can't see any negatives. He has a really stellar kind of what's the word I'm looking for here? Outline of what he's done as far as work. I cannot think of the name that I want to use, the word I want to use. But Resume, thank you. He has a very good resume as far as past works. So, but it's always seemed to be like he's been in a creative director position or art. So I don't know how that's going to work necessarily in this. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure they know what they're doing, and he's worked with them before, so they must have a good idea of where to put him, where to put him, should I say? My bigger thing that I'm worried about is what's going to happen with Crystal Dynamics. Is in with Embracer's situation they're going through. I know they've not rebranded, but they've
split into three, and they've got a gaming section, and they've sold off a bunch of their stuff, and things are not looking good. They and closed a bunch of studios. So yeah, it is concerning. Does Crystal Dynamics become the support studio for the initiative permanently? I wouldn't mind seeing that, to be honest.
I wouldn't mind Xbox outright buying them out and getting them. That's what I wanted all along, but I don't think that's in the cards, especially after the layoffs we saw industry wide. So, that's my only thing is I would worry about. Embracer's situation more than anything. I'm pretty sure both teams are going to turn in a good game. It just makes me wonder of the deadline now for Perfect Dark and like how much, because even when we saw that gameplay, I don't know if you remember me saying this, but I said it seemed like some of those weren't really gameplay moments to me. That's what it felt like. Yeah, the best way I can put it is it's like some of that was gameplay, whereas some of it was like, oh, look, we're going to animate this part and make it appear as part of the gameplay. So I
Xbox
don't
would
know.
never do that. Never.
Right. So that was my only thing. It just makes me wonder how far away it is, but we'll see. I have faith in them.
They would never use a 5090 and then pass it off as an Xbox. That just never happened. They would
never.
Full console gameplay, GDK. Salutations.
Oh, you want to talk about this shaming you put me through the other day with that post you made?
Well, I mean, you put yourself through it, really.
Did you see that tweet, Colt?
No, I didn't see it. What a surprise, though.
Riskit attempted. Riskit, you should share that. Riskit attempted to shame me for enjoying the PC life as I have, and
I have as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what have you got?
Phil, wait. Well, hold on, Riskit. Are you going to say that he represents the Xbox brand? Because Phil Spencer's told me many times, and you to play on PC. He tells you every time that he puts their first-party games on PC first. And he tells you every time that he has the games running better and for cheaper and for no monthly access fee to play on PC.
There you go.
He tells you when he puts all of his games on PC. He's like, if you have a PC, you should play there because we're going to give you all the games. And a lot of your games, you'll be able to go back and forth on your console if you'd like. And I like doing that. It's nice.
Yes.
And
but I mean,
people are following suit.
You can't represent that you have all the frames. You know what I mean? When really you're just running a lower end PC that doesn't have all the frames. And so
I have a 4080.
That was more what the apology was sort of geared to. We didn't want to misconstrue, our beliefs to our viewers. So I'll read it out for you, Umbra, just so that we can shame you once more. The Infinite Podcast apology. Today on the Infinite Podcast, we discovered that one of the panel members and co-hosts has been involved in fraudulent behavior. Sadly, this behavior is self-confessed, and it was. You said it yourself. The accusation is that Infinite Umbra, one of our legacy panel members, is running a 4080 Super whilst championing graphics, frames, and most egregiously, UE5. We at the Infinite Podcast do not support this kind of behavior, representing that you have all the frames whilst only outputting a minor amount of the frames is morally reprehensible behavior, and we just cannot abide. In many circumstances, this would end a career. However, we at Tips believe in second chances, and we are currently discussing options with Umbra, not limited to PCMR Anon, or even the Xbox reintegration program, as we believe, like Phil, in providing options. This is, of course, a difficult time for all of us here at Tip. We thank you for your continued support and ask that everyone please respect our privacy in this difficult time.
Oh, my God. Hamming it up.
It was absolutely hilarious.
The one that got me was he said in most cases this would end a career. I was like what? Oh, that made my day. That was too funny. Everybody in all the chats were like literally cracking up at that, by the way. Everybody in different chats I was in. But no, that's funny. But
look, I enjoyed probably writing it than most people enjoyed reading it. I was killing myself laughing the entire time with my edits and rewrites. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, look, I agree. Like, absolutely. But I feel that Xbox should offer that option with their actual Xbox. So, I think we're going to see that next. Look, I really believe that we'll see that next generation, which is what I'm holding out for. I can handle, 60 frames at 1440p, and I think that sort of option is probably sitting at around, US anywhere from 7 to 800, for that console, and I'm happy, with them not making a loss on the console, which is the main thing. Is like, are they willing to make a loss? I doubt it. Especially, look, I think if they want to continue to create hardware, R&D. I feel like we're in a time and place where you can't expect companies to use their console as a loss leader when there's so many other options. So I feel like making a premium console that can handle, the frames and the graphical output that's reasonable for a reasonable amount, where they make a reasonable amount off that console, and that's your option. Or your option is going to PC. And I feel like, they're looking at that because, they keep saying they've reached this ceiling with console gamers, with PC gamers, with those gamers already in the ecosystem. Obviously, new people are born, whatever, and then some people come back to it. But
the problem is new people are born and they're playing Roblox and Fortnite on their PC or phone. That's the problem.
On their mobile, yeah. And they've already got that. They sort of hit that ceiling. So there's no reason to use that as a loss leader to attract people in. There's options for people who want to join in. They want to go PC, they can. If they want to go, the console, that's probably still going to be better value just based on the manufacturing power that these guys have. I think that option should be there too at that premium sort of level. And if it has to be at a premium price, then I'm happy to pay it. But if we get to the next generation, I'm not getting my 60 frames and my 1440p and my Steam library, which is huge. I've got one game in there. Then I'll be disappointed, but I'll probably still buy it because PC sucks.
We got to get you on over to the PC Master Race side, Risk. That's all this is telling me. Yeah.
I mean, well, it didn't save Concord, did it? And moving on to our next topic conversation. Before we do, please hit the like button, share us out. We go live every second Friday, pre-record the Friday after that, and we enjoy both of them. We hope you do too. We're going to move into our next topic, which is Concord. I wanted to talk about this. This is sort of a back thing that sort of happened a week ago, probably be 2 weeks ago by the time this goes live. And the Concord studio was closed down, and this is not me being in you always have to preface stuff like I always feel I need to just because of what's out there in the community, but I have to preface this by saying I'm not just beating up on Sony unfairly. I'm not being an expert. I'm just genuinely disappointed, and I tell you why. Because I really liked a lot of the elements of Concord, and there was a lot of the elements of Concord that I didn't like. The stuff that I really liked was the mechanics were great. The feel of the weaponry was great. The movable traversal was great. And graphically, it was stunning. So for me, and performance-wise on the PlayStation, ran great, right? I'm not too sure about Steam, but I think it ran pretty well there too. So you've got, that to me is the bones of your game, right? It looks good. It plays well. And it performs well. That's the bones of your game, of any game. If you don't have the mechanics down, and you don't have the feel and the performance down, obviously that's the game's out the window. The things I didn't really like, I didn't have any attachments to those characters. Like none of them felt like what they played like, if that makes sense. So they didn't feel like, I didn't look at those characters. A couple of them were pretty cool, but I didn't look at all those characters and go, this is a hero. This is more like Bob that sits on the couch eating too many, crisps or cheezels or whatever it is you guys, I don't know what you guys call them. Chips, Chipotle salutations. And that sort of brought it down. The other most egregious thing, and there's two other things that I really didn't like, but the most egregious to me was the UI was so convoluted. I felt like I needed to go get like a diploma to just understand what the hell was going on with the UI. And then to find the information that I wanted about my character. Like, what does this guy do? Okay, cool. What does that mean? Like, he shoots out green shkabalambagada. But I'm like, what does shkababala do? I don't know what it is. Like, it didn't explain it to me, like, what that is. So then I, got to try the character out, which you can do, and that's fine. But the UI was just really super convoluted. And then trying to get to your upgrades, understanding how that all worked. To me, they could have sorted that out. But that's a problem that long term isn't going to hurt you, because if you get a player base happening, then people will start to understand it. They tell other people, and they tell their friends, and they tell two friends, and they tell their friends. You know how these things go. But the thing I think that if they had got right is change those characters and balance the game, because the tank was like a literal, it wasn't a tank. What did I describe it as before? It was like a pillbox. It was like a moving bunker. Like that thing you could not kill that thing. It was ridiculous. And so you either played as the tank, which also did minimal damage. So it was really frustrating playing as tank. You wouldn't die, but you couldn't kill anything either. You're just existing in this world. And then the DPSs, the builds were like ridiculous also. So the only things that could kill the tanks were the DPSs and then everything else around the map. So the balancing was all over the shop. I think if they took it away for a year, they sorted out the heroes, they sorted out the UI, and they balanced the game, I really think that game had a chance. And like Halo, and we stuck with Halo, that Halo had great bones. It had all those things right. It did have the balance right. A few little balancing issues at the start. Had the UI right. Everything was good with Halo, just didn't have the content. And Concord was going to be able to deliver that. So Halo had the great bones, didn't have the content. Concord had a setup to deliver the content, but just didn't have all of its ducks in a row. I think that there was a space for Concord to exist if they had worked on it. And I think it was a bad move by Sony to close the studio. I think it was the wrong decision. And also say after this is my monologue coming to an end, because I had a bit to say about this, obviously. Even though Colt were like, Colt, what topics are we talking about this week? Colt was like, Concord. I'm like, yes. I don't like this dancing on the grave of studios, which is why I've said absolutely, I'm passionate about it, you can clearly tell, was why I've said absolutely nothing online about it, because I think I said it's sad to see or something. But I hate this dancing on the grave of studios because they are on the other team, because those studios still contain hundreds of people or 100 people that lose their job. And from the looking at the game, most of them did their job pretty well. And it's probably not the lower level developers, the guys who are handling animations, the guys who are handling textures. Like, it's probably not their fault that this didn't succeed. It might be the head creative team that made these mistakes. So I really hate this dancing on the grave of studios, and can we stop doing that? And can we at least be, because every time a studio closes, we as gamers all lose something. Like, we all lose. Some of those people will now move into different parts of software engineering, software development, maybe not in gaming. And from looking at the game, you can't deny there's some talent there, and we've lost some of that talent for good. And that's just a really sad thing. It should not be celebrated ever at any point. And that is my rant. I'm sorry if you think that I'm being a PlayStation pony. That's what I'm saying. Colt, I'm going to jump to you because I'm interested to see what you thought of Concord. Did you get a chance to play it?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I played it for half a day on Steam. I think they could have revived it. They needed to speed up the characters. I went back and watched some footage because I deleted the footage after I made a video, and I needed it for the past 2 videos, as we talked about them canceling the game, and then they closed the studio a week later. The movement is so sluggish because it looks like Destiny competitive multiplayer. It looks like it, but it's like the characters, like when they walk, it's so painfully slow. And I'm like, I like that sort of Overwatch / Destiny thing. But when I played, I'm like, this is comparable, or I don't know what the word competent. It just felt so slow. And I thought, you know what, they could fix it is by not changing the characters to be sexy or masculine or hot or whatever. They could actually change it if they just took each of the archetype characters and remodeled them into PlayStation IPs. And everyone's like, it's a stupid idea. But I'm like, why not? Why don't you take each of the characters and say, which one of these can be attributed to a place, and make it like a PlayStation's All-Stars type hero shooter, and speed up the gameplay. Like, go into the system and just say, speed is at 0. Let's put it at 0.15 or 1.5 or whatever, because it felt so sluggish. And I thought they would come up with some type of monetization schedule or something, but they spent $400 million. They spent 8 years on it. It made no money. They had like a peak of 25,000 sales or something, which is like the worst sales of any major game ever. The only thing they can do is close the studio. The funny thing is, Herman Hulse said, this is like an industry changing, like long living franchise for PlayStation, something to that effect. And I don't know why he's not on Kind of Funny Games this week, on their podcast, explaining why he failed to deliver and close the studio for PlayStation.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's not my joke, but it's brilliant. I saw it on Twitter. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, it sucks. These people lost their jobs, and everything's done. They're gone. So the kicker is PlayStation has closed 6 studios this generation. And Xbox has closed 3, but maybe you would officially say 4 because they kind of shifted things in one of the studios they closed with Arcane and Tango. But everyone said Xbox is going to buy all these studios to shutter them, and PlayStation has shuttered more of their money out of studios than Xbox has. Who would have thought? Who would have thought we'd be here? It really speaks in volumes that Xbox is not the one who is dying right now. It is the entire industry. There is such a horrible, deathly situation for people who had their livelihoods built into making games that we love and we enjoy. We love to buy them. We love to play them. We love to talk about them. And right now, if you can get a game off the ground and people actually like it and don't hate on it nonstop, it is an absolute miracle. And Firewalk Studios is just in the firing line of how the industry is in such a struggle right now. And you're right, we shouldn't be ducking on it. Doesn't matter which console you worship at night and you have a shrine built to. It's a really sad thing. Less games for us.
You shouldn't put candles on your console. I learned that the hard way. And if you do, put next to, not on the top, because of the holes in it, like drips in there and the fan stops. It's not good.
Yep, I'm sure.
And the fan blows out the candles all the time. It's really frustrating to keep light. Anyway, but yeah, I think as well, like that game came out at a bad time for it through no fault of its own. And with some of look, it's there and we don't have to talk about it. But I mean, I just think also that didn't help that it got a kick in the guts from these, I call them incels. Someone told me off for that. So like, they're not all incels, but let's say say 20% of those guys are incels. So they got a bit of a kick in the gut from these guys who were generally grifting and basically picking on any game that has like purple shading. They're like, see, purple.
Yeah, who would do that?
I told you.
who would have a bias against a game because of its color shading?
Me. Drives me nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really tough. You're right. It's just really tough for devs to get stuff out the door. And it also means, I mean, I guess it sort of started with Cliffy B's. I can't remember the name of the game that he released that was actually pretty good. But
Lawbreakers.
Yeah.
Lawbreakers just didn't hit the ground running because it's all timing and what the industry's open to, and it's just like 50% luck and 50% what you put out. Like some things are undeniable, but if you're putting out a game that's sort of sitting in that like it's good but not great, it's 50% luck to whether that game survives and makes it. And then 50%, maybe even tack on, split that into 25s, 50%, how good it is, 25% luck, and 25% how willing the publisher is to support that game. Because look at Fortnite, they could have shut at that. That thing didn't release like out the gate like to fantastic reviews and was terrible when and then they adopted PUBG's sort of model and boom, off it went. So Umbra, I want to definitely jump to you because I know you love Concord. You were devastated. We had to call and just stay on the phone with Umbra because there was points that we weren't sure how he was really feeling about the shuttering of Concord. So did you want to give your take?
Oh yeah, I was going through it, man. I was, had to call up some other fellow Hoove brothers to get through this. No, to me, the writing was on the wall. The writing was on the wall. I mean, from the beginning, honestly. I do like the idea, though, by the way, Colt, of having PlayStation mascots into it. But then, they do want to build their own world and everything like that. To me, I think the issue, outside of it not being free to play, which was to me the worst decision, was it not being free to play, was that the characters looked, they didn't look that good. The characters looked terrible. They looked uninspiring. People did not want it. People voiced that displeasure in the character designs. And I think even just the color palette wise, they didn't look good. It was just like terrible color options and everything. I don't know.
Purple.
Purple is fine. It's how you use it though. And I think just aesthetically, it wasn't pleasing to people. I even heard mixed things about the gameplay. Some I've heard they liked it. Some I heard was not that good. I don't know. I didn't play it. But I think the bigger things were the lack of appeal because of the designs and it not being free to play, which I thought Sony would like swallow that peel on and just say, okay, let's switch it to free to play before we put it out there. But they didn't. They stuck to their guns and they paid for it. So that was the two bigger things right there for me. And I think I don't know how would I put this? Because it feels like when you give into this and you speak on it, it feels like you're kind of giving an alley-oop to the grifter types, right? Who have whined about this game for so long and crusaded against it. And it feels like, oh yeah, see, our whining and complaining is what did this. But you know, ultimately some of the things they did say were, in my opinion, fair. But you know, they grift so much and say so much negativity that it's hard to take them serious. But I think a lot of just negative word of mouth hurt it too. You know what I mean? Negative word of mouth, the price range when it should have just been free to play, coming into a market where it's already super niche with other titles people already love and are already invested in. Nobody's leaving from COD. Nobody's leaving from Fortnite. No one's leaving from Overwatch. You know, those things are not happening. No one is leaving from Destiny even. So all those things I think coalesced to hurt it bad. And their fan base. I've said this many times. Our Hoof brothers do not care for these types of games at first party. They might play the third party Call of Duty. Indeed.
Sorry.
Our Hooved brothers.
Trademarked. Feel free to use it. But yeah, they don't care for these types of games in first party. That's why I say your idea, Colt, with using first party characters in it might have actually been smart for them to do, because it might have incentivized them a bit. But they don't really care for those types of games because I think they've been conditioned to really want and play, you know, third person action over the adventure over the shoulder, et cetera type games. So I don't think this really speaks to them what they really want, and it showed, because most of them were like, nah, we're good on this. And then you look at some of the other games that they do put their money behind, even a game like a Stellar Blade, although I thought that would have done much better than what it did. But you'll look at a Stellar Blade, you'll look at what was the other game they money had it?
Rise of the Ronin. A lot of those games sold really, really well. Even Astrobot was mildly successful, I think. Which I was wrong. I thought it was going to like sell like crazy because it was fantastic.
I thought so too.
But the problem isn't like the Hooved brothers and what they're like willing to play and buy. Yeah. Because I think the reality is not enough people can buy a game on one plastic box for the most part. Because if you look at PlayStation's games they put out this generation, a lot of their sales are off of almost 10 remasters that they have almost 10 remasters just from first party alone that are exclusive to their generation of the PS5. And their games take a while to make a turn of profit. Xbox is even in a worse situation because their console base is so small. And then do PC players love console-esque games? Kind of. So I think in this industry, it's just really difficult.
I think Helldivers coming out at the beginning of the year kind of blows, you know, some of these narratives out of the water, right? Like it sold like crazy across both of those platforms. It didn't need Xbox. And then on top of that, the problem is that live service is so saturated right now, and there's only a finite number of new ideas that are ever coming along in live service, right? Like Blind Fire is a new idea and it's interesting, but then the problem is that most players who are in Fortnite or who are in even PUBG, right, or Escape Tarkov, or, you know, Valorant, which is another one that I would argue the Valorant and this are very similar, right? And they
Yeah.
were probably it's a very similar market, and Valorant is absolutely massive. So it's go ahead. There you go. Uh
Massively huge. Yeah.
so the problem is all of these people are playing games that are very well fleshed out. And live service games, when they come out, they are as fleshed as they can be, but it takes a while for them to pick up or like clean up all the extra and get them to the mature game that it winds up being, right? Like Fortnite. Fortnite was lucky you brought that up, but it was lucky because it was at the beginning of the battle royale craze, right? PUBG was kind of the first, but Fortnite did it so much better, right? And it was fluent and it appealed to kids. It had a different aesthetic. It had that building thing. So it's a market that's heavily saturated, and the people that play those games have a lot of money invested in those games. And so for them to think about going and trying another game in the same genre and restarting and starting with a game that hasn't matured into the potential that it could be, it's not going to get there, right? Because you don't have enough players willing to just drop the game that they probably put $500 in for the last 4 years, right? To go do something else and restart over, but with the same type of mechanics. You need a completely different style. Like the finals did a pretty good job with that, I would say. And it has a player base of its own, but it's, it hasn't exploded to the size that a lot of these others have. But where do you go? What?
Wait,
Uh-huh.
you made it. That was too easy. I can't. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh, you
I can't
guys.
say anything around here.
Yeah, you really can't.
I would say even for hill divers, though, just going to that point, hill divers actually goes toward my point because aesthetically people like that. Aesthetically is pleasing to what people want. It's a military style shooter. They look like Starship Troopers fighting against these bugs, and it's kind of unique in a way of how it's presented. With how
And it was humorous.
It's
funny as hell.
humorous. Yeah, all those good things.
It's funny, before Concord shut down, in that 2-week period, I had watched this video by a game developer who, for 2 hours, he sat and he picked apart all of the issues with the design choices in the Concord characters themselves. And he wasn't trying to be a jerk. He was just like saying, like, these are some of the issues that you have with game design on these characters, what we typically go for, right? And he was showing how when he does it, or one of the like gut checks for color, right, on the character skins and whatnot,
Mhm.
he was showing the different like filters and things that they would do to make sure that there was enough color like deviation,
Contrast.
right, to
To make them different from others, or or to,
right, like
okay.
even he would like put a black and white filter on, and like you could even see the difference in the color palettes enough, right, to
Okay.
see like the light versus the dark. And then when he would turn it back on, he was just talking about how a lot of these things are just very textbook like double checks that they do on a lot of their design choices, and a lot of these were just kind of failing that mark. I watched the whole thing. It was
That's
like
cool.
2 hours. It was really interesting. And he did every character, right? So, it just seems like there was a lot of that. Plus, I just heard another developer talking the other day about how, like, you're kind of almost like a victim to your own timetable on making a game as well, right? You start
yeah.
at a certain point, and by the time you
It
finish,
treads-
that craze could have been over, right? Yeah.
Yep.
But what do you do? And most studios that are in the double AAA space, they're too big to pivot quickly, right? Indies can recover from that, but these bigger studios can't, because it's like moving the Titanic versus like turning a dinghy, right?
I was literally about to.
Playing with
That
the
was
dinghy.
sort of the thing I was going to say because
Give me the oar.
Concord started development 6 years ago, and a lot of these live service games have started development, 6 to 8 years ago, and then they're coming out at a time when everyone's like, ugh. Like, I mean, live service wasn't even a big buzzword back, when PUBG launched, back when Fortnite launched, with Valorant, when they're all coming through. It wasn't, live service wasn't the buzzword, but now everyone hears that, and I would argue a lot of games are live service, but I think Helldivers is a good one to say on strength. Is you know, that they sort of nailed every metric. The humor was there, the gameplay was there, it had enough difference. It also had enough nostalgia. It had a whole bunch of things working for it. It just seemed to hit well. I think it's a little bit of a for Herman Holst, it's a little bit of a it's a concern that he couldn't see the problems with this game, because apparently he was hugely positive in the background about this game. He was the one championing this game, said it was great. I mean, we know that Jim wouldn't have been able to pick a good game at, like, if it jumped up and slapped him in the face, because I mean that guy can't even hold a controller. He doesn't know what a game is. He could probably pick out a nice suit. I think he'd be good at that, but games wise, I don't think. Yeah, he didn't know. So, but
Bobby
Herman
Kotick didn't know that though, and he ran Activision very successfully. You don't have
that's
to
true.
be,
I know, but
you don't
he
have
also
to be a hardcore gamer to run a gaming company, right?
yeah,
If
but he
you
was
do
also an
business.
asshole, right? You know, like a
Well-
huge asshole, and you know, he did have people in the basement
We're
that he
not
would whip
talking about
regularly.
that part. We're talking about the fact that you can make good games.
He had
Get them out.
The COD salt mines where he had like literally would pour salt on people's eyes whilst they were like developing. He didn't do any of that stuff. I'm making all that up. Slapping coffees off the table. Be like, salutations, my ass.
My
sorry.
God.
Yeah, look, I think there's Bobby Kotick is a bit of a, he sort of knew what worked and what sold, and he didn't do the whole, it's a bit different to releasing new IPs. Because if you look at Activision Blizzard, they didn't really focus on anything new IPs. So Bobby Kotick wasn't out there going, yeah, I like this new IP, this is great. Kotick was like, you did that good, that made money, do that again. And that's what Bobby was really good at. And I guess PlayStation's been good at that, except they're like, you did that good, we make exactly the same thing, a little bit better graphics, do that again. And we'll do some live service. Oh my God, crashing. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe PlayStation, you could say maybe PlayStation should stay in its lane, but I just think I think if you lay out 400 million and it doesn't work, 6 years, 400 million plus whatever you paid for the studio, because don't forget they also bought the studio, so you layer that on top, right? They've spent a lot of money, you've made that investment. What's another 100 mil to see if you can get this thing going? That's how I would look at it. I guess maybe my business would fail because I'd just be like, keep throwing money at it, like it'll be fine. But I just feel like it was a little bit premature. Pause. Maybe they should have given it another 6 months or another year to get that thing on the right track and see if it could have built a player base, you know? Like it could have. I really believe it could have. I think, you know, Colt's definitely right about the speed of the players, but there was just a few other minor issues, couple of major ones. You fix the couple of major ones and then you just patch in those minors. And Umbra, as you said, make it free to play. Just drop it free to play. It's not going to hurt you. If you don't do any work on that game, you drop it free to play and you put some cosmetic stuff in there for people to buy, you might make some money back, like at least something. It's just disappointing. PlayStation
And also,
sucks.
well, also, one more thing. They didn't even show anything about this game until May, and then it was out in August.
Yeah,
so
June, yeah, or whatever it was, yeah.
So that's another part of the problem is like you have to Umbra's point, you have to have something that looks interesting to pique people's attention, and some of those characters might not look like something that piques certain people's interest, right? But then the other problem is when you're only, I mean, we complain all the time, right, about how far in advance we see game announcements and then it disappears for years and all that stuff, right? Which is, to me, is a problem, right? I love the 6 months to a year, no more before the game comes out. Like that's my preferred. But 3 months for a live service where you need a large player base doesn't seem like a good choice. I don't know why that was the case either.
And you hammer that with like into PlayStation's typical style. Like I see it over here. If I see it, like there'll be, God of War Ragnarok plastered on buses, bus ports, going down the freeway, and there's, the big signs, the billboards, the digital ones. Like it's on the radio, it's on the sports things, it's on this. It's like you literally couldn't turn around. Like I'd be in my studio, I'd be like, God of War. But like they didn't really do that with Concord. I didn't see much of that happening. So yeah, I completely agree with that.
And if he really thought it was going to be the next big thing and it was going to lead to all of this other stuff, and they even had that secret levels being made, right? For the Amazon Prime, the Secret Level show coming out this
Yes.
December.
God,
They had
I
all
can't
of
wait
that
for that.
laid out, right? Then if he really thought that this was going to be the next big thing, why weren't they doing any of that marketing?
Mhm.
You know, that's just the conundrum in my head about if you were sure, why didn't people know about it and be, you know, why wasn't the buzz strong?
I also have to wonder
Yeah.
about the developers there at the studio that they like the Firewalk, that they realize like, man, we have to make some moves, some pivots to try to save this thing. And were they given an option? You know, I wonder if Sony gave them any types of options and move to free to play or anything like that on
Yeah.
some behind the
Did they
scenes.
have the conversation?
Yeah.
Did they be like, were they like, hey, if you, I mean, surely they would have had a pitch, right? They would have been PlayStation and said, look, it's going to cost this much for us to do this, and we'll release it free to play and do this. And then, you know, maybe Sony turned around and said, tuna casserole. And they were like, nope, not doing it. So slapping coffees off the table. Everyone get out. Pack your shit. You're out. Sorry.
You don't have to go home.
Salutations.
You gotta get out of here.
I don't know. I've just turned Mr. Matty Plays into like the worst human being on the show today, but he is absolutely just a lovely dude. I love Mr. Matty. So if he ever sees any of this stuff, I am sorry, but I'm not going to stop. We got to move on to another. We got to move on to the next topic because we've got Colt in the house, so we definitely want to pick Colt's brain about Indiana Jones. And I had some questions. I don't know if you saw Colt's video. I'll make sure I link it down in the description of his impressions. If you don't know, Colt was went out to see or to preview the game. Not sure of the gameplay time exactly what you got, so we'll pick through all that as we go. But I definitely have some questions, and I'm sure the panel member has some questions. Hopefully, you guys in the chat have some questions. And if you do, please hit the like button. Share us out. We go live 8 p.m. every second Friday. Pre-record the Friday after that. And salutations to everyone and your family. So, Colt, you got a chance to get hands on, and I have a couple of questions. I'll throw them out. And then we'll just open the floor up and everyone just attack Colt immediately. Why is this game like this? And obviously you are prepared to be blamed for how good or bad the game is. So I know that you're set up ready for that.
This time it's going to be just fine.
The game was bad. Damn you, Colt.
I still think back because I had you first on my show for Redfall, for that discussion.
Yeah. I had a lot to say. That's for sure. Yeah,
that was a great
That
discussion.
was a tough. It was tough to see. It was tough to see the whole thing. I was like, Colt didn't make the game, guys.
They're like, he did it. It was him.
It's funny. We could beat a dead horse and play the sound. There he goes. It was tough to see because I was surrounded by content creators and journalists that liked the Redfall preview. Like they were just like me. And I was blamed for saying that it was game of the year and game of the generation, things I never said. So, ask away.
Who brought that up the other day? Someone was referencing Dragon Age Veilguard, and they referenced it back to, was it Mr. Matty? It might have been Mr. Matty Plays. Is like it sort of felt like we didn't get the preview because I think he previewed it, or someone who previewed Dragon Age and then played the game. Yeah. And they were like, it sort of felt like they were keeping us in this little pen enclosed so that our impressions were better than had we seen the entirety of the game. I guess you could say that for any kind of game, but I feel like it was really egregious with Redfall. And maybe they did a little bit out with Veilguard as well, but it's weird that I heard that the other day and I sort of thought back like, oh, remember like Colt caught so much crap for that, and it really wasn't.
Yeah, and you have to be really super. You have to be really super careful because I don't remember what they previewed of Dragon Age: The Veilguard, referencing back to that. But I can tell you, playing the opening sequence 3 times now, it's fantastic, and you're like, this is so cool. They give you combat early on. It's really really punchy. The environment looks incredible. It's high stakes, and if I was a developer if I was making something that I wanted to sell to someone, I wanted them to fall in love with it, I would absolutely show them the best thing first, right? And that's not being super evil. Like if you're a creator, and it's really easy, I don't want to be the person like you have to be a chef to be able to critique food. I hate that analogy, right? But if you're someone who creates things that you put out to other people and you're hoping they buy it or that they like it or are going to enjoy it, you're really like stripped naked to like, I hope you really like this. So you put your best foot forward. If I create a poster for work or a graphic or something, I want to make sure it's printed on the really good semi-gloss paper. I want to make sure it's at full quality. I want to make sure everything is at its best. Everything has got to be, when I present it down to the bosses on the table, I want it at its very best. And for Redfall, we played the best mission, the only good mission in the entire game, a main mission. It was pretty interesting. You go into this old mansion where a doctor lived, and he was performing these horrible experiments on his daughter at her danger, at her peril, and she was haunting the house, and it was so cool. And then you get the game, and it's like you walk around this empty open world, and the missions suck, and that was the only good one. So that was what happened with Redfall. Really sucked, and I took a lot of heat. I still to this day, putting out the this isn't an interview about the Redfall thing, but putting out the Indiana Jones preview, probably 50 comments. You're gonna jinx the game. It's gonna be another Redfall. Why did they fly you there? Now the game's going to suck because you're there. And I think it could be a joke, but I think people truly feel like they believe that. This is how stupid the human race is. I was telling my daughter the other day, we were at a big public thing, and I said, this is most of the humans. What? This is the face they make when they're in a big open public place. And as soon as I said this, man walked in, looked in the auditorium for a seat, and he's like,
where am I sitting at?
And my daughter's 17, so like I can be super obnoxious with her, and she understands that I'm half joking. But let's talk about Indiana Jones, because people really want to know, what is this game? Like, am I going to like this? Is this what I waited for? So
yeah, and I feel like based on your video again, which I'll link in the description, it's some of the things that, and listen again, or just a full disclosure caveat, I when I saw the initial reveal, I was like the guy who got beat up like horrifically on the internet because I didn't like it. I was like, why did you do this? Like, why couldn't you make it? Why didn't you make it Uncharted, the original Uncharted? That was my thing. Really could have done that. It sounds like based on your video, I was like, oh no, this is also not what I wanted. I'm like, okay, maybe I can get down with this game if, like, everyone's going to hate me in the chat. Whatever, I don't care. But like, I felt like I could get down with this game if it was like, what Indiana Jones is to me, which is that big action blockbuster, you're being chased in a car and then you're having a fight in a nightclub. And then you're like, you're running from a huge ball. Sometimes two. Kidding.
I mean, that's in the game. We just didn't get to play it. But
right, yeah. So like that. So the big action set pieces, I feel like should be there. But from what you got to play, it sounded like you very much experienced the sort of stealth aspects of the game and the puzzles. And I guess my question is, and I don't want to like rehash something that you already had in your video, but my question is the choice there? Or do you feel like you're forced? Are you like, if you don't go stealth, are you immediately just killed? Like, do you get beaten up by everyone? It's too hard.
Before I start answering that, for those of you who are listening, thank you for checking out the Infinite Podcast. We appreciate you. Just so you're aware, anything that they ask me, there's like no NDA or embargo on anything. Everything that I've seen in a preview and the hands-on preview is all I can talk about as much as I know. There's nothing that I saw or I was told or that I was shown or I played that they said, please don't mention that right now. So if you're interested in hearing as much as you can about Indiana Jones, we can do that today. So as far as the combat, I feel like they recommend that you try and stay out of trouble. But yes, you can just start like running up to someone, punch them out, and they'll alert other guards, and then I have to fight them off. There was a moment where there's Nazis walking around with machine guns, and I beat one guy up, grabbed his machine gun. I had only the ammo that was in it. You don't run over ammo crates and immediately pick up ammo. And I started mowing them down, and then I died. And then I tried it again, and I mowed a bunch of them down until I ran out of ammo. When I ran out of ammo, it said press X to melee in front of me. And so I'm holding, I don't remember what the name of the German micro machine gun is. It's like got the vented like
MP30.
There you go. Nice work. So I'm holding the MP30 and I'm out of ammo and the Nazi's running up on me and it's all first person. And I push X and he takes the gun and he turns it like this, like a baseball bat. And I was like, whack, whack, whack. And I punched out 2 Nazis until the gun broke. It like splintered. There's this animation where it splintered and Indiana Jones goes and just threw it to the ground really fast. Like, that's broken. I can't use that anymore. And I thought that was pretty cool. So you can go guns blazing.
He's trying to crack that Nazi's skull.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've got to make up for lost time. Right. So, yeah. And they lean in on the Nazi thing. Like I was like, I wonder if they're going to minimize the banners or the armbands. It's all there. Like it's an Indiana Jones thing. So it nails that. But I think they want you to skulk around and get behind them. There's no choker hold or sleeper hold animation, which I thought was really dumb. Like he'll go up and just go and punch him like right here and knock him out. I'm like, oh man, like, because I feel like Harrison Ford Indiana Jones would be like, and saying something while he does it because he's not a competent warrior, right? So he's not meant to go like Wolfenstein, 2 guns going, bah, 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 bah. So that isn't really all in the game, but I was super frustrated with the pacing of skulking around, grabbing things and looking at them, setting them down, reading little cards, grabbing little pieces of things that you can.
One more question on that, because that was something that I think I heard you say after on XNC, which is Colt Show. If you probably all know, but which is Colt Show. But if you don't know, go check that out. I sort of, you said that, and I'm like, well, for me playing Stalker, when I played the preview of Stalker, I knew I had a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get through as much as I could of, I guess, the action part or the fun part, what I consider the fun part, and not build the story, skip through all the story, and then I race through it. Do you feel like that?
Now, what Riskit's saying is super important because he was at Gamescom in Germany, right? And you have a limited amount of time to play. So you want to see every bit of mechanics that's in the game. And you got a headset on. There's people all around you. You're trying to like experience as much as you can. And you're like, when you're in line at a ride at Disneyland, you want to like experience it because it's going to be over. And yeah, keep going. Cause what you said to me really made a lot of sense about Stalker.
Yeah. So to your point, to that, do you feel like that stuff would be less frustrating for you if you knew you weren't on a time limit and you could take your time with the game, and you, instead of having to look and read and do all this stuff, you were like, I've got time for this now. I can do this. But at the preview, you didn't feel like you had time, so you got more frustrated, or do you feel like you would be the same?
Yeah, I was very critical in my preview about the pacing thing, and what I didn't convey properly that nobody really complained about, but we had an hour and a half to play the game. We were on PC and we were on a 50-inch TV. Normally it's like a 32-inch monitor and you're like right there. It's really nice. But they had like 6 stations on one long table. So there's big 50-inch TV. I had a plugged in Xbox controller and I was like, this is really, really nice. And when I was going around skulking, like I wasn't really super worried about, I felt like they gave us lots of time. Sorry, I've tried to be very focused about how I explain it so I don't waste anybody's time. I liked picking up and interacting with stuff and then sneaking my way around and then punching people out or getting fist fights when they, sometimes you're like, oh, I got this. And then a guy would be like, no, we're going like this. We're going to duke it out. And I would enjoy that a bunch. And then I'd knock him out and it was cool. And I could go on and kind of skulk around and look and all the vibe was there. I didn't feel rushed like I thought I would. My problem was their preview setup was not the best. They should have worked in, because it's hard to explain, but the last half an hour or half an hour plus was you're in Giza in Egypt and there's side stuff, but they had a map up on the wall in the presentation room and they said, we want you to go here and here because you can get your disguise and you're going to get this thing. I can't remember what it was. The camera. It wasn't something, not the camera. We already had that. You need to get this, and you need to get the lighter. That's what it was. Because the lighter will get you access to stuff, and light stuff up or burn so you can get into locations. And you'll want to get that. Otherwise, we don't want you to waste your time looking around and not knowing what to do. So they said, go here, and then you'll be on your way. But maybe I missed was, if you go into this location, you're going to do part of the main quest. I did 2 or 3 side quests during that whole time in Giza, and none of us really got to see a real big set piece moment, which I know are in the game. There's 6 or 7 main locations in the game, and there's going to be a main crypt or tomb or some type of secret location that is the real reason you're there. But they didn't give us a big set piece moment at all to experience. So once I got out, the PR rep for Bethesda in the car was like, Colt, so what'd you think? I go, it was really great. I didn't think the first person combat I thought it would be clunky. Normally it's clunky. It felt really impactful. When I was punching people, the sound and the way his fists and the way they react, it felt really great. And I know people can look at it and go, looks kind of clunky. It's no, when everything looks clunky when you're watching it, right? It really does feel great. But she goes, what don't you like about it? And I said, and she turned like this. She was in the ride back to drop us off. She just looked at me like this. She didn't blink. and she's fantastic. She's so good at her job. Yeah. What was it? The golfer?
Right.
That golfer meme? She just looked at me.
Didn't like something about this?
Yeah, she was to really convey to me that I am listening. I'm asking you this and I want you to tell me, and I'm listening. I thought it was so fantastic, but I was on the spot. She's like, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I go, well, I didn't like the pacing of it. I felt like you're doing a lot of skulking around, and I wanted to see more of the Indiana Jones stuff you see that goes on in the movies. And then one of the guys next to me goes, there's going to be the ball rolling and the chasing. She goes, oh yeah, that's in there. Yeah. That's in there. So, sorry, I'm just rambling. It'd probably be easier if you asked me questions.
But that's good to know that we saw one of the set pieces in their reveal with the plane. So that's cool. But I definitely want to kick it over to Holly and Umbra if you guys want to jump in and you've got stuff you're curious about. Because they were my main things. I've got a couple more, but I'll circle back if you guys. I don't want to take all the questions and be like, well, I've got nothing to say. Salutations, you risk it.
Holly, you want to go first?
Yeah. So everybody should watch Colt's video because it's interesting. When they first announced it, I was like, ooh, right. And then the first showing of it, I was like, okay. No, and it's not that I doubted it because I really like machine games. I really, really like their stuff. I just thought I just the art style was maybe a little different than I thought. I thought it was really surprising that they went with Harrison Ford's whatever, right? But then it's good that they did that in all reality, right? Because that's what we know, right? If it had been something else, I feel like that would have been a big point of contention.
Like Guardians Star-Lord in the game, which I liked, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I thought, well, okay, it's going to come out. I'll play it. We'll see, right? And I was assuming Uncharted-ish, just like everybody else was. Point of order on that, I do really feel like the space is missing a good Uncharted style game. We haven't had one in a really long time. Doesn't have to be Uncharted, but I hope there is one coming at some point because I do really love those. But I thought that was going to be what it was. And then when we watched the trailer, I was like, okay, all right, I'll play it when it comes out. Yeah, whatever. But then I watched Colt's video and I was like, oh, and for me personally, and you're not the only one, I heard multiple people say in their preview Dishonored. And that's like a buzzword for me because it's, one of my absolute favorite games. I was like, that's it. I don't want to know anymore. I'm in. Okay, now I'm happy. Right now I'm excited. And I'm also one of those people who doesn't if I know I'm going to play something and I'm excited to play it, I don't want to know too much. I kind of like to go in blind. But one of the things that I thought of is in this scenario when you're talking about, you know, them having content creators come and doing these previews of these games and then genuinely asking, like, what do you like? What do you not like? If there is a large consensus across the group about a particular thing, right? Everybody has their own personal like, don't like, right? And some are major, some are minor, it's not a big deal. But if everybody or the majority consistently said the pacing was horrible, just an example, right?
Sure.
At that point, what do they do? Because there's already a date, right? There's already all of this work done. They're basically ready to go. And I guess what is the strategy from that point on? Is it okay, what can we do to like at least either A, fix this if it's something that's minor for them to fix, but something that everybody noticed, or B, if it's like a serious issue, does it then become a point of maybe we should just cut back on the marketing a little bit, or, you know, like whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Like, because we've seen that happen too, right? Sometimes the game comes out big when it does, and then like
They
Unknown
quiet
9,
down when
right?
Yeah.
Unknown 9 came out, nobody remembered, right? But at the showcase, everybody was like, wow, look at this game, it's amazing. And then under the table it came out. So I guess that's kind of the question is what do you think happens in those scenarios?
I think it's like your analogy at the Titanic. It's too big to turn the ship. It'll take too long. Would they delay the game? I don't think the previews were bad enough for them to really think they need to make major course corrections. I also think those changes are too gigantic to make this late in development. Like you're asking for adding more enemies and adding like more combat. Like I just don't think it really works. And the game felt really small. We're in the Vatican was the main area, which is in the nighttime area where you're skulking around in my preview. And that area in itself was like, how would I explain how big it was? I don't know how to explain. It was like maybe 10 rooms, a few hallways, and 3 or 4 courtyards. Like it was really small, and you could, if I wanted to walk sideways, it was I could walk for 10 seconds. I'd hit both sides of it was very small. So there was just stuff to look around for, and you picked up these books, and the books became your perks, and you could cash them in with the currency that was built into the game at any time. Sort of like
cool.
Youngblood, and I guess more like Wolfenstein Youngblood did, where you could find. I played that game all the way through and a little bit with Red Wolf, but you could spend your points to like put certain perks on your character. So like in the moment, like Indiana Jones go, oh yeah, and it was like a book, and it showed 2 people doing fisticuffs, you know, and you could set it down, and then you go over to character, and you're like spin your point,
like Wolfenstein did with the
Yes. So I'm like, okay, I didn't really expect that from this game. So it sort of lets you kind of pick your character, the build of how he is in the world very mildly. And like the cool thing was hold on, if you don't mind me standing up.
Stand away.
Yeah. So they gave us this hat, like these free hats. And anyway, there was a thing called Lucky Hat that I explained in the preview. And if you unlock that early on in the game, if you lose a fist fight, Indiana Jones will go down and the screen goes dark, kind of black and white. And you look around and you see the X indication on his hat, like over here. And so you go over and you hold X and you crawl towards it and hold X. And then that scene that you always see where he goes, you know, he puts on his hat and does his smirk that they kept showing in the trailers. That's like a revive, and you fight the enemies again.
Nice.
Does it play the music? Does it do?
Yeah, it does like a dun, 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 and then he goes,
So
"We're still in this" or something. Or he says something, and of course, Troy Baker sounds just like it's because it looks like him, and Troy Baker just kind of like doing his voice, the Troy Baker voice, without moving his mouth a lot, just comes across as Harrison Ford. And of course, the writing is Harris. And people are mad, like, I didn't know you played Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones. When I kept referencing that, I'm like, but it is. It's Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones. And there's no other way to do it, like Holly said. So you don't suspend your disbelief. You feel like this is an Indiana Jones like simulator. So
yeah, that was one of the things that I wanted to jump to Umbra, because I know Umbra's got questions as well. But just quick with Troy Baker, it's not really a question. I always felt like he was a good choice, because I think that Troy can emulate, or he has a lot of range when it comes to inflection and how he says things, because the inflection is important, because Harrison Ford says things in a particular way, in a Harrison Ford way that, like, no one else does. Like, I speak a certain way, Colt speaks, Holly, Umbra, we all have our own inflections, and it's real talent to be able to really emulate someone's inflections in the way that they speak. That makes you believe it. Troy has he probably deepens his voice slightly from what I've heard. And I think he just does a really good job of getting those inflections. And if you really listen, there's parts at which you're like, oh, it's not quite Harrison Ford. But I imagine if you're playing the game and he's nailing it the way that I've seen or heard, when you've had those few Troy Baker sort of lines that we've seen in the previews, I think he was a great choice. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, Troy again. Like, well, Troy again, because he is good. He does do a good job.
Well, before you go to Umbra, you remember that Todd Howard didn't want to pick Troy Baker. He wanted somebody else. And, he must have wanted a person that was already a sound alike or could do the impression. But he said that they did these blind tests, and every time everyone preferred this one, and it was Troy Baker. So, anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's obviously, he nailed it. Before I jump to Umbra,
wanted
you
a
said
cheaper
one other
budget. Troy Baker.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
He needs
Troy,
another jacket,
Troy is
right?
super talented, by the way.
Yeah, he is.
He is. He really is.
How he did
but
Mark Hamill's Joker, I was like, wow, this dude is too talented.
Is good. Yeah, he's good. He's very, very good. But I'll jump to you. But one thing before I do, you mentioned you're in the Vatican, so that would have raised a lot of eyebrows, and there would be some questions around that. My main question around being in the Vatican, did you get a chance to punch the Pope in the face?
No, there was like 12 guards in the whole level. It seemed like, so no, I didn't.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I mean,
Peace
I'm
be
not
unto
saying
you,
I don't like
Punch.
I'm not saying I don't like the Pope. I just, like, if I get a chance in a video game to punch the Pope, I'm going to take that chance. I don't know. That's just what I'm like. But,
Did you punch the Pope in Assassin's Creed, Risk?
Yes. I think I threw him out of a window.
You monster.
I just wanted to see what would happen. Like, he's like, will he fly? Would the God rays come down and like save his, the Pope is flying.
Oh my gosh. Look at this.
Salutation. Umbra, we're definitely going to jump to you and questions that you have.
So I have
about the game.
my questions are going to really push the envelope for you. So I'm going to ask something really dramatic. I brought up the whip situation earlier. The whip is particular in the mythos of America, and Indy is one of my favorite characters of all time. Harrison Ford is my favorite actor of all time. With Troy Baker voicing him, does he ever do this? Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? Does it ever happen in the game when you played it?
Not what I saw, but I think there is something that. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Yeah. You go into a gypsy style tent in Giza. There's all these tents where they're all at an architectural dig site, and this character is kind of like I can't remember what nationality
like a
she is,
or something like that.
No, she was like she was someone who lived over in that part of the world and was helping Gina and Indiana Jones. And so you go in there and she says something about her pet snake, and Indy's like, oh, do you mind if I go and feed your snake? And she's like, go ahead if you think you're brave enough. And you go over and you interact with the X, and he's like having a hard time putting his hand in there. And I just kind of chuckled. I'm like, oh, of course. And I think that stuff's going to be all over in the game. But he finding his voice like that when he you didn't see him put the food in, but he like put his hand and did this animation. That was another cool thing. Like in the game, all the animations, they fake it with the hand. And most Bethesda games, it's like, clunk, the door just opens, or like Dishonored, the coins just go to you, and at least he puts his hand over there. You find a key, he picks it up, and they fake it to where it looks like he grabs it and rotates it. All this stuff like really matters to me because it's all part of production value and immersion, and that you care. And when you put the key in the door, they did it so quickly in the footage they sent me. You put the key in the door and it's like push left stick to the right to turn the key, and you're like, okay. And then he turns the key, and I don't know what that doesn't make a great game, but with the controller rumble and that you're actually interacting quickly, it just takes just a half of a second to pick up things, turn the key, open the door. It just feels like you're walking around as the character. And I know people are really upset about the first person thing and the whole Uncharted, but I don't know about you. I love Uncharted to death. We've already had 5 of them. We've already had 4 or 3 recent Tomb Raider games. I love them to death. And I wish we could have had one of those. I'm like, okay, but I mean, those are great. And we've had those, but we've never had a game where you feel like you're Indiana Jones and you're walking around. And then if the rooms, we've seen the clips where the sand starts pouring in, you have to get out and use your whip to get out of there quickly, or use your whip to trip up enemies. Like, we haven't had that before in first person. And sometimes you forget. You absolutely forget. Call of Duty is fantastic in first person. I love playing Starfield in third person, but when you go to first and you make that compromise into first person, you see the gun, you watch it reload, you watch the reload animations, you can look on the shelves, you're just like, that world's right here instead of so far away. I love watching the character animations, but I think we take too much away when a developer says, look, this is what we want to do. This is what we wanted. Machine Games can make a third person game. And I don't know.
So going back to the whip, as I prefaced this.
Yeah.
Yes, because I wanted to, give you a real one. Now I'm going to give you a playful one. Does the game?
Which one is this one?
This is the playful one. Does the game at all inhibit you from hitting the more melanated people with the whip? Does it stop you from, like, because of the diversity and inclusion, and doesn't want the whip to hit their skin and it might cause a rating drop or something? Just wanted to know if it's,
Okay. I don't know.
You're not going to be judged on this, Colt. And then she turns around and looks at you in the car like,
right.
No, I mean, I'm very old on this world, and I appreciate you, Umbra. I appreciate you.
Indeed.
I didn't try to whip or punch NPCs. So I don't know about that, but I mean, most of the guys you're fighting are either Italian guards or Nazis. Yeah. So I wouldn't know about that part.
Okay, I see.
So but
they avoided themselves. They made sure that
so I'm trying to remember, like, when you get to Giza, you're by all these tents where you can walk around and there's merchants. And I was super annoyed that if a Nazi guard walked amongst the public people, because you're Indiana Jones, you're automatically like their Assassin's Creed question mark circle fills up and just like about this fast. And I'm like, I'm literally walking by the tents. I'm not in a restricted area. I don't have a pistol out. I'm not like whipping vases and breaking them. I was like, why are they doing this? So then I would have to get into a fist fight with the Nazi in front of all the people in public. And that suspends my disbelief, because I'm like, imagine all these people who are hanging out by this dig site, and here comes this American in a leather hat and leather jacket, and they're like, he's punching people, starting fights for no reason. Like, what do they have against this guy?
Typical American to look at them.
Stupid Americans.
Yeah. You know what I really hope they do is, because there's so many classic moments. There's obviously the ball. You guys talked about the snake thing as well, but I really loved in, I don't know if you guys seen it, the Last Crusade. So good with Harrison Ford and his dad, Sean Connery was brilliant. Love that.
And River Phoenix.
In that,
Yep.
And River
Yep.
Phoenix.
Classic.
And in that, when River falls into when he's like, he gets the hat, there's so many moments in that sort of prequel thing where they sort of deliver on like where Indy
Why
sort of
he
comes
has the
from,
whip.
why he's like he is, like, so why he has the whip, how he gets the hat, and also why he's scared of snakes, because he falls into that train car and all these snakes are all over, and he like absolutely freaks out, right? And then there's that very Indy-like character who's like is the bad guy, but he then emulates that guy and becomes a good guy. So there's great moments. But one of the best moments I think that I really loved is that moment where that dude jumps out with the sword. He's sort of Persian, sort of Constantinople. He does that whole thing and he's like flipping it around, and like Indy's like, I don't have time for this, and just shoots him. And then looks around for like, what was I doing? And that, I would love to see some of those sort of cheekier Harrison Ford, like that makes you just like love the dude moments. And I really do hope they have the set piece moments, but also I hope they have some of that levity that that Harrison sort of has throughout all the indie stuff. Even in the Temple of Doom, there was just some hilarious sort of moments where he interacted with the girl when they were having the romance thing, and she would come over to the bedroom and then he would come over, they would give each other a serve, and then it turned into a romance scene, right? I think that was sort of just some of that great, I guess late 90s, early 2000s sort of, Steven Spielberg stuff that was brilliant. Did you feel like there was much of that humor in like DNA in the game, or didn't get a chance to sort of
to see it? One moment that was that really got me was when Indiana Jones realizes early on in our preview part, the break in at the college and the museum, right? And Indy's like tells his professor colleague, he's like, I have to go to, I can't remember what country he said he was going to go to, but he's like, let's say I need to go to Italy. And he's like, Indy, you can't just run away and run away from your problems. And he's like, watch me. And he starts packing his suitcase, and you grab your hat, you put the hat, you grab your whip, you set it in there, and then there's a note sitting on the inside of the suitcase, and he pulls it out and you open it up and it says something. I don't want to spoil this, but it was signed by a character from the franchise in the movies. And I was like, I got this lump in my throat because we recently watched the Indiana Jones movies a few years ago with my family, and they loved them, and my kids are young, and that callback to like, because Raiders is is Todd's favorite movie, right? So he wants to nail that, and so it's this callback to this character that persists in there. And Indy looks at the note, and then as soon as you're done reading it, he goes, crumples it up and throws it away, and the press goes, "What was that?" Indy? He goes, "Oh, it was nothing." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was so great." So I didn't get to see a lot of the funny stuff, but the things that he says to the guards after he beats them up, he has like a little quip, here we go, pal. And then when he beats him up, there was something that was in the video, like, I don't know. He just has these comments, these sarcastic, like, dismissive comments that Indiana Jones does, or that's part of Harrison Ford's like style as an actor. It's all in the movie. So I would think someone like who's, I'll say one last thing. Someone who is like, when they were 12, Uncharted was their favorite thing. It's like their first real cinematic game. And then they play this expecting it to be like Nathan Drake mowing down 700 guards in the first 3 chapters with an AK-47. They might be like, what is this? But I don't want this game to be only for the Gen X people. That's not at all what I want this game to be. I want it to reinvigorate people in the franchise. And I feel like their choice to kind of pare back on an action adventure, there's lots of action in the movies. So I really hope they've hidden a lot of the big moments for people to actually get that when they play the game.
That feel. Yeah, I mean, and those quips, that's very much the, the sort of time period movie storytelling for those movies. I mean, you're like Arnold Schwarzenegger with the you've been pushing a lot of pencils, sort of, sort of like one-line stuff that's like so cool. I mean, I recently had my son watch Predator because I'm like, have you seen the original one? Because he saw the new one. I'm like, have you seen the original? He's like, no, he loved it. He's 23. Absolutely love it. He's like, this is great. I'm like, yeah, this is why we have all these Predator movies now, because this was like, like, Dylan, you son of a bitch. Like stuff. It's just so many perfect, like, moments. He didn't even know where that
time.
Yes. Where that, and that's a gift that everyone, like, someone says something you like, you put that gif out where it's like, when the two arms like, so good. And there's a lot of that. And one thing I'll say, thank you as well, because I've been looking for a series to run my kids through. My two daughters especially, they are 10 and 15, and we just went through Back to the Future. They loved all those. We've done Gone in 60 Seconds. We've done just a bunch of classics because I'm like, you need to sit down with me and watch some of these classic films. And I'm like, what's the next classic series I can watch? Indiana Jones is the next classic series I'm definitely going to take them through, because honestly, there's just so many moments. And they look at me when I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, you see when he said that? And they're like, Dad's a little bit weird, but also this is a cool movie. So. And it's a good experience to have, like those classic old movies. And so I agree. I say all that to say, be really good if they could sort of reinvigorate the series and then maybe bring back, a prequel version where it's like the River Phoenix. Because obviously, look, Harrison Ford's at that point where he's probably not making too many more Indiana Jones movies. So it'd be sad to see it go with him. I'd like to see the baton handed off to a younger, which I think they tried to do with the Crystal Skull, but just didn't really. Yeah, Shia LaBeouf didn't come off, but
I
think they could
There's
do it.
There's a lot of potential there. Yeah, you're right though. It would be good to go back to early indie, like young indie, right, and explore those things. That River Phoenix, like that little illusion that they did at the beginning of that one, and really take that to the point where he starts, right, with Raiders. And those movies are timeless. Like they're really timeless. I think they're kind of transcend what generation you grew up in, I feel like. Because the humor is good. He's a fun character. It's set in World War II, so it's not like 80s period specific, right, where it gets a little goofy, right? Not like a Dirty Dancing or something. Well, that's not a good one, but like Pretty in Pink or something like that, right? So it's a good series.
Nobody pushed
That's
baby
definitely
in the corner. It's interesting because I thought Shia LaBeouf was actually pretty good in that movie. The movie just wasn't good.
The writing was bad.
Yeah, the writing was bad, but he was okay to me.
Well, the last movie I really enjoyed. In fact, I could have watched the whole movie with the CGI younger Indiana Jones, but those movies are so great because, like Star Wars, the original ones, they are based off of a classic movie serial genre. So it was all about swashbuckling, fisticuffs, and chase scenes, right? And so it's such a simple formula of great action and storytelling and strong characters. And I hope that's what Indiana Jones provides when you play it. I got an hour and a half with the game. I enjoyed all of my time. I was just really concerned about the pacing because I don't want to get burned on thinking, oh, this is going to be, I expected Starfield's pacing to be a lot different than it is. It's very slow. And once you understand that, I really, really enjoy Starfield more and more. But when your expectations are different with any game, it can really kind of burn you in how you feel about it. So I was very careful about how I feel about Indiana Jones. And I wanted to make sure I conveyed that in the preview because I know that Holly's excited about the Dishonored vibes that you get because there's sort of a Dishonored feel when you're in the slower moments. And that can put off people. Like I have friends that do not like Dishonored. And they're like, I don't even think I want to play the game. I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. Like there's a lot more to it than just that mechanic in the game where you're going around and interacting with things. So,
did you get a chance to drive around? Did you drive in a game with like action?
I don't know if you drive around. I was in an open area in Giza that you could probably walk to the end of the map in 5 minutes. It was only slightly open. and there was stuff to go up and down to check out. So I don't know if there's driving, but I'm expecting you're going to be jumping on cars, on the roof of cars, or cargo trucks or something like that.
Trains.
I don't know. Or trains or something, right? I don't know. I hope. So,
I mean, as well. Well, you go, Holly.
No, I was just gonna say to clarify too. I'm actually glad that it's not an Uncharted style game. I thought that was a nice surprise to learn that it's not that, because it just seemed like that was the expectation, right? So it's nice to just have an action adventure game that is its own thing and not trying to emulate a different series with a Indiana skin on it.
I mean, my argument to that has always been that Nathan Drake emulated Indiana Jones, and Indy would always do it better. But we'll see. But look, the thing is, the great thing about this is it's going to be on Game Pass. So for me, it would have been a I'm not sure if I'm going to get this and play this game, but it's a no-brainer. It's on Game Pass. So as soon as it drops, obviously, I'm going to download it. I'm going to play it. I'm going to check it out. And then, obviously formulate what I think of it. And I could have been completely wrong. I'm always open to being wrong. So I could be completely wrong. And it's not, I don't know why you're pulling that face for. I mean, it's
me.
Look, I'm open. No, it's Holly. I'm open to being wrong. It just doesn't happen often. So if that's what you,
wow.
I've only been wrong once, so I mean, I know how you feel.
But yeah, and if it's great, then I'm obviously going to champion the game. And if it's not for me, then I try not to. And I have a little bit with Dragon Age, but I really try not to. Oh, I did with Metaphor just because it was really getting on Black Viking's nerves. But I try not to be overly publicly negative about games if I don't like them, because
Cyberpunk.
there's always someone out there. It was Cyberpunk's trash.
Jeez, you're missing one of the greatest games this generation, Riskit.
Cyberpunk was dope, man.
Yeah,
it's trash. Yeah, I can't believe that they're just
I'm
released
sorry
a game that bad.
You're gonna love release what, a game that ran crappy on the Xbox One and PS4. Come on.
Not everything, ran, yeah.
No,
and then
that's
poor
not
story, poor acting. I mean, I don't know
I
where they
played
got
it on
that,
the Series X. It dropped frames once in a while. Sometimes it'd hold up for a half a second, and then they patched it. But even with its problems, great. You'll love it. You're gonna love it. It's great. I can't wait.
Who was that? Who was the actor? Terrible actor. I hate him. He was terrible. Cabano Beeves or something. I can't remember.
Cabano Beeves.
I don't know where they found that guy, but he was terrible. Terrible.
Who is this
dude? And
Cabano
just so
Beeves.
cheesy on stage. When someone shouted out, "We love you, Cabano," and I was like, no one even knows who this dude is.
You're awesome.
Let's
Yeah,
tell the
Keanu
John
Reeves is
Wick
amazing.
side of him what you said about him, and we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I saw your Peanut the Squirrel post as well, and I'm like, what is this Peanut the Squirrel? And it was the John Wick thing where he's like loading his, like pulling the clip back, ready to like tear shit up. And I'm like, what is this Peanut the Squirrel? And then I watched it, I'm like, man, this country is horrific. They kill squirrels. What
And raccoons.
You got to play it though, man.
Yeah.
I might do that mod where you could put all the crazy super visuals on it and play it on PC. I might try it out just to see.
Yeah.
Try it out. I think you'll like it.
He is gonna play it. I'm gonna play God of War, and he's gonna play Cyberpunk all the
There
way
you
through.
go. There you
Oh,
go.
you guys are in for a treat.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she is. I'm probably going to be hating my life.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait for you to say, Colt, don't tell anyone. I'm loving Cyberpunk.
Mhm.
Yeah, if
That's what happened
if
to
I
Ram,
tell you,
right?
That's what's
I
gonna
feel
happen.
like if I'm not like, look, you'll know if I'm having a rough time if I start having baths. I don't know. I feel like if you're a dude taking a bath, there's something really wrong in your life at that specific time.
What are you
Like,
talking
especially if you've got a toaster like next, plugged in, ready to go.
Oh, stop it.
Wait a minute. How did you transition to baths? What are you going to be taking a bath for?
I don't know. I just feel like it's a very depressive thing to do, right? If you're a dude. I mean, I get girls do it because they're like, oh, this is relaxing and it's amazing. But like, if a dude's having a bath and there's like some candles or something, like he's just having a really rough time. Can't even be bothered standing up in the shower.
What if he's a more sensual guy that likes, the finer, feminine kind of things in life?
I mean, that's a spa, that's more of a spa type dude. I think you just, dancing with the devil is like having a bar. So when my son occasionally has bars, and I'm like, "You all right? We need to sit down and talk. Like,
Oh
you
my
okay? How are things?"
Risk is ready to take him to a conversion camp, Cole.
I mean, to be fair, I've never really liked baths because you're just after a
Right?
minute you're sitting in your
You're
own
sitting in bodysuit.
stuff that needed to be cleaned. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it that
Exactly.
it goes down the drain and in a wastewater treatment plant near you will take care of it.
Right. When you filter it out,
And it would
it comes like
recycle
pure
that.
water that you drink. Yes.
Yeah, straight back into the drinking water. Like,
Salutations.
Absolutely.
Holly,
not.
you didn't have a drink this whole time. I've been waiting and watching, but it didn't happen. Anyway, honestly, we
drink
gotta
it this
open. She
whole
bet.
time.
Yeah, but where's the straw? I can't do that.
Yeah, I didn't have a
without
straw.
it. It has. Yeah, you have
That's
to have
true.
the straw, right?
That's true.
Mandate. New
Disappointed
mandate. It's been a fantastic show. I had a really good time just chatting with friends as we always do. And Colt, really appreciated you coming through last minute, and really appreciate the sort of feedback and answering our questions about Indiana Jones, because there's lots that I want to know that I feel like I feel a little bit more positive about the game actually after speaking to you about it. So, you know, obviously Game Pass, I'll try it. So, but you might have tipped me over to buying it if it was like just a purchase traditional only option. So yeah, I really appreciate you coming through. Let people know where they can find you. I mean, obviously everyone on chat will very much know where to find you, but your socials will be down the links. If you don't know who Colt is, you head down those links, click, and you'll be like, oh my God, how do I not know this guy? And you go on his show and you'd be like, salutations, welcome to
Oh,
Yep.
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
You can find me at Twitter and YouTube and Instagram at Colteastwood, all one word. And there I'll be covering gaming news, mostly Xbox stuff, PC, some multi-platform big games, and talking to people that are in the content creator community on X and C. That's a weekly show on Monday. And yeah, thank you. It's been good. I mean, we're not really doing podcasts here. We're hanging out with our friends. So I appreciate being on here with all of you guys. Thank you.
This is true. This is very much what it feels like, a big Xbox party. But one other thing I'll mention as well is if you don't know, Colt's doing weekly news, which is really good. I love the weekly news. I always watch, I think Skill Up's the only one that does it. And I want more because there's other sides and perspectives. So I'm actually really happy that you're doing those weekly news things.
Thank you.
So when they drop, keep an eye out for those videos because they're really informative and a bit of fun. And then also obviously head over to XNC, which is the podcast that Colt has with that guy that everyone hates. What's his name? He's terrible. Like his voice is.
Yeah, he's annoying. He's Canadian and New Yorker all in one. Is what to me that's what he sounds like. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love
awful.
Mag.
Love the guy. Mag,
Mag,
middle-aged game guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you
what are
see
you
us going
talking about?
backwards and
I'm
forwards,
walking here.
it's yeah. I love he's got a great sense of humor. I love getting on the show and just annoying him for the first half of the show, just so he winds up until he's like, "Yeah, Riskit, get out of the chat."
Yep.
It's great. Umbra, another fantastic week. Let people know where they can find you, what you'll be up to. You will have had your fix show, so stay tuned for the next one, guys. But let everyone know where they can find you, where they can find the fix, and what you're looking forward to.
Yes, indeed. Of course, as Colt mentioned a second ago, Twitter, Infinite Umbra, or Umbra Infinite. You'll find me either way. Colt, man, thank you for joining us, brother. Really appreciate having you on and answering the tough questions that we posed to you, you know, specifically the whip. I was going to take that another direction, but I pulled myself back. I'm proud of myself. I'm very proud of myself. And I think you all knew where I was going to go with it, but I stopped. You know, but no, thank you for joining us, man. I really appreciate having you. Always love hearing your takes on gaming in general, your inspiration. Shout out to my co-hosts and host. You all always bring the great takes as well, and you know, it's all love. As far as where you can find me elsewhere, Boom's show, the Xbox Factor, on Tuesdays at 12 o'clock Eastern. Myself, Boom, and Jamie Moran. And Thursdays, myself and Danny J. McGee. That is Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, here with us on the Infinite Podcast, 8 o'clock Eastern on Fridays. And yeah, And the guesting elsewhere, people typically ask me to jump onto a show, so you'll see me elsewhere. Thank you all for coming by if you're here listening to us, and we appreciate it.
No one asked me to come on their show anymore. I just don't have time. People do ask, and then I always feel bad because I'm busy. Holly, another fantastic week. That hairline, amazing. Chef's kiss. Don't know what you did, but you've got it nailed. Let people know where they can find you, what you'll be up to this week, and Red Wolf's the Renegade Ron's podcast. What's it called? I always forget.
Renegade Ted, I think is what it's called.
Do you remember Ted's was it Ted's Adventures? Uncle Ted. Do you remember that show, that animated series with oh gosh, I
remember Bill and Ted.
No, there was I'll look it up. Anyway, I'm Renegade Realm podcast on Tuesday nights on Red Wolf's channel. And then actually this is airing Friday the 8th, I believe. So I will be on Web Dave on Sunday night, November 10th. So come by there at 6 p.m. Central. And then also just doing a little plug for the coins. These are the Call of Duty coins that we'll be doing giveaways for. That's the front. And we have 3 different designs. Unfortunately, DHL delivered the 3rd coin set to somebody else's house and they signed for it and stole them. So we're trying to figure out we're trying to figure out where they are. If we're gonna have to buy them again. So
gosh,
check for eBay.
Yeah. Anyway, having said that,
good idea. I'm gonna do it right now.
We do have
which coins were they that stole? Call of Duty?
Yeah, they're the Black Ops 6 coins. So they look like this in the front. All of them have the same front.
Awesome. What's the back? Oh, dang.
The Grim Reaper.
That one. Since and there's that one. I had a couple of people say this looks like dealer's coin. Like they were made for dealers.
Yeah, it does. Let me see the other one.
Yeah.
Let me see the other one again.
It's a Spartan.
Spartan. Oh,
yeah.
They're based on some of the Prestige artwork. And then the 3rd one, I don't have it. Somebody has them. But anyway, so apologies
it can't be dealer's coin because no one could he's finding the tools, so they wouldn't have obviously been able to get a portrait.
Well, Xbox found the tools for Black Ops 6.
It's
what?
I know they did.
Someone said that in the chat, and that like literally sent me into fits. And I love Dealer. Like he is an absolute, like he has always been an absolute legend to me from day one. I love the dude, but when they said he's gone to find the tools, I fits of laughter. So it was absolutely hilarious.
That is that's another unfortunate like collateral damage of what happens when we're creating content. Like he was talking to the people at Xbox.
Yeah.
Constantly. Like, cause we made all these claims based off of architecture and all this stuff. It's funny that the PS5 Pro specs come out and people are like, what happened to the 33 teraflops? Right. But, I mean, everybody gets dinged, but we were frustrated because the console was not performing even on its own the way it was supposed to. I know you're trying to get out of here. And it was being outperformed by the PS5 sometimes. We're like, what's going on here? So he was talking to the people often about what was going on. And they were like, we're getting the tools together. Like their whole kit and everything was all behind. And they were 6 months behind PlayStation on development on their own console for developers. Yeah, it was sucked. And so he took him and I took a lot of heat for that while Xbox just failed to do what they were supposed to do. What they said they would do. Sucks.
Yeah.
Great fun.
No, yeah, absolutely. There's definitely no fault of his. I know he was talking to specific people, but there's still stuff in that box that's not been used to this day that's capable of doing, like DirectML hasn't been touched.
Yep. Sample feedback,
mesh
streaming, back and pat, or not back and pat, BC back or BC pack whatever. I've said it a million times in videos that after all these 3 years,
shaders,
I stopped remembering. Mesh shaders are very rare. They're even able to do that on PlayStation 5 somehow. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
But you know,
sorry, Holly, we interrupted your outro.
It's okay. So
Us complaining about Xbox.
Yeah.
So watch these two. Those two. Their shows for giveaways. Also, the Gamer Circle with Donte and Boom and Iron Lords. And of course, Ains over at Season Gaming gives some away as well. On Twitter, we have a limited amount of each design, so you get what you get. So please don't ask for specific ones because we're doing our best to get. I am doing the best to get them out, and we can start doing the giveaways without the third one, I think. But anyway, sorry, little snafu in the delivery system, and so we're gonna have to go to the mattresses with the coin company and DHL.
I mean, that's what I said, man. You gotta use FedEx. You guys are losing. I was like, salutations, FedEx is the best. Well, yeah, that's disappointing to know that the third lot's coming. But if you can still get at least that third lot coming through somehow, that would be awesome to see. Those coins look amazing. Definitely head down click the links below if you want to find the Renegade Realm podcast and XNC. They will be down in the links in the description. Obviously, get around to, you said Iron Lords Boom, Ains' Season Gaming, Renegade Realms as well. Are they doing it?
No.
Oh. Shout out to Ben.
Colt, obviously XNC, yeah. And shout out to Ben. And if you're not following Ben Kenobi 2020 on Twitter, his link is also down in the description. So please click on that. Everyone, you guys in the chat, I don't know if you've been good this week. You guys might have been absolute D-bags. But I doubt it, because every week that we've ever gone live, you guys have been fantastic. So we still appreciate you when we pre-record. Again, Colt, thanks for coming through. Umbra, Holly, you guys doing the back-to-back shows. Really appreciate you guys. Just so that I can continue working and doing my job. And we will see you all next week for the live show. So, yeah.
Salutation.
Be nice.
Salutation.
Yeah. Yes, he did the salutations under the be nice. That was fantastic. We'll see you all next week.
Later.